Hey everyone, welcome back to Dark Truths. Like and subscribe if you crave the deepest dives into the mysteries behind closed doors. Today, we expose RCMP secrets revealed to a new detective in the haunting case. She took off and broke her relationship with Daniel, RCMP secrets to a new detective. It began like any other spring morning in rural Nova Scotia, but it ended in horror. Two children, Lilly Sullivan, just 6 years old, and her younger brother Jack, only 4, vanished without a trace. One moment, their tiny rubber boots sat neatly by the porch. The next, an open sliding glass door swayed in the breeze, rocking gently as if mocking the silence inside the home. This was Gairloch Road in Lansdowne Station, Pictou County. A tight-knit community where nothing like this had ever happened. On May 2, 2025, the world of one family would shatter forever. The RCMP's first response came quickly. At 12:25 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time, a missing persons notice went out. By 4:55 p.m., the case had escalated. A vulnerable missing advisory was issued, alerting the province that these were not just runaways, these were children in grave danger. Then came the questions. The children's mother, heartbroken, told reporters, "It was one of the worst nights of my life. I didn't have them in their beds." Her grief rang through every word. But the focus of suspicion soon turned closer to home. Daniel, the children's stepfather. Behind closed doors, his relationship with their mother was strained, unraveling. And soon after the disappearance, he would break ties altogether. A decision that left investigators wondering, was it grief, or was it guilt? Enter the new detective. Seasoned but skeptical, she was assigned to re-examine the case. Her orders were clear, leave no stone unturned. But almost immediately, she began to notice, things weren't adding up. Files missing. Reports redacted. Details withheld. And then, just hours into the search, an RCMP superior pulled her aside and whispered, "We already suspect the stepfather, but you're not cleared to see everything yet." Cut to black. Silence. The search began with urgency, and escalated into one of the largest operations Nova Scotia had ever seen. By the morning of May 3, 2025, over 100 people were deployed. Ground teams, RCMP officers, volunteers, dogs sniffing for scent trails, drones scanning the canopy, and helicopters sweeping overhead. Every resource was thrown into the woods, because every passing hour made the chances of finding Lilly and Jack alive smaller. Then came a fragile lead. A boot print. Small, child-sized, pressed into damp soil not far from Gairloch Road. The coordinates were relayed back to command. RCMP K9 units were dispatched. Human trackers combed the underbrush. Forensics teams arrived and carefully made a plaster cast of the print. One of the few tangible clues in an otherwise vanishing trail. But the children themselves? Nowhere. By May 7th, less than a week later, the massive search effort began to scale back. Exhaustion set in. Volunteers who had walked grid after grid returned home, with nothing to show for it but torn boots and heavy hearts. Still, some refused to give up. Community members launched intermittent searches in the weeks that followed. They scoured abandoned wells, combed through mine shafts, checked under collapsed trees. But no new findings ever surfaced. Then, on June 11th, the RCMP released a progress report. They had conducted an intensive approach. 54 interviews, including some who had been put through polygraph tests. 488 tips assessed, ranging from credible to outlandish. Hundreds of hours of surveillance video reviewed. And multiple court orders authorizing the seizure of electronic devices. On paper, the investigation was exhaustive. But behind closed doors, the new detective wasn't convinced. She noticed something else. Every time Daniel, the children's stepfather, was interviewed, he appeared cooperative, but distant. His eyes darted. His answers were clipped. To some, he was simply a man broken by loss. But to trained investigators, his evasive eye contact and flat affect raised red flags. The mother, meanwhile, wore her grief openly. Haunted eyes, sleepless nights, clinging to hope yet reliving the horror of finding her children's empty beds. And the new detective? She wanted to trust the evidence. But whispers circulated within the department, reports were being redacted, details withheld, and leads quietly dropped. Late one night, an envelope slid across her desk. No name. No explanation. Inside, a heavily redacted RCMP file. On the cover, stamped in bold, "Assessment of Daniel Sullivan." Her hands trembled as she unlocked the folder on her secure terminal. Lines of black censorship cut across entire paragraphs. But what remained visible was enough to make her gasp. Fade to silence. The file the detective opened was only the beginning. Buried beneath layers of redaction were fragments of the truth, fragments the RCMP had never shared with the public. Internal notes revealed that investigators had never ruled out abduction, despite their public reassurances. Instead, their suspicion grew sharper, focusing on one man, Daniel Sullivan, the children's stepfather. And within the file, a reference that chilled her blood. Surveillance video. Dated just a week before the disappearance, the footage had never been released. It appeared to show Daniel at a roadside bay, discarding what looked like a small piece of children's clothing. Or because it was too damning? Then came the proceedings. Not in open court, at least, not yet. But in a hushed internal hearing. The prosecutor's voice echoed in the sterile room. "Mr. Sullivan, did you lie on your polygraph?" Daniel's shoulders slumped. His voice was almost a whisper. "I'm just trying to protect." He stopped. The silence was suffocating. Protect who? Protect what? No one in the room could say for certain. Outside, the world was already forming its own verdict. On social media, posts began to circulate. RCMP hiding secrets. Why won't the mother be given full access to the files? Where are Lilly and Jack? The public's anger grew. And the family's pain played out on a stage far larger than Pictou County. But the real breaking point came deep into the night. During a private interrogation, Daniel finally cracked. His voice shook as he tried to string the words together. "I loved those kids, but something snapped, she took off. I lost it." The detective froze. Was this a confession? Or the grief-stricken ramblings of a man unraveling under suspicion? She had studied men like him before, those whose guilt hides beneath layers of grief. But here, in this room, she couldn't decide which she was facing. A father figure mourning, or a perpetrator masking the unthinkable. And just as the weight of his words settled into her mind, another message arrived. An anonymous voice on the tip line, cold and deliberate. "Check Gairloch Road. The truth is buried there." Fade to black. As the weeks stretched into months, the case of Lilly and Jack Sullivan settled into a cold, uneasy silence. Officially, the disappearance remains unsolved. The RCMP insists the investigation is still active, files being reviewed, electronic devices still under examination, leads still pursued. But as of today, there are no arrests. No trial. No closure. The emotional aftermath, however, is far from silent. The mother, though broken, clings to fragments of hope, her words echoing in every interview, every vigil, every plea for answers. The stepfather, Daniel, stands publicly cleared, but privately, haunted. His presence lingers like a shadow, his statements dissected by anyone who still believes he knows more than he's admitted. And the new detective? She continues her work, resolved, but burdened with the knowledge of secrets buried not just in files, but in silence itself. Officially, the disappearance remains unsolved. The RCMP insists the investigation is still active, files being reviewed, electronic devices still under examination, leads still pursued. But as of today, there are no arrests. No trial. And yet, no questions refuse to die. Did the RCMP suppress crucial leads to avoid sparking public panic? Was Daniel truly protecting himself, or someone else entirely? And what of the anonymous tip, the chilling voice that warned? Check Gairloch Road. The truth is buried there. Was it a clue, or just another cruel false trail? The truth remains just out of reach, blurred by redaction, silence, and speculation. But the weight of what we don't know is almost as heavy as the weight of what we do. And so I ask you, our Dark Truths community, what do you think is behind the RCMP files kept secret? Is Daniel covering up a darker reality? Or are we missing the bigger picture altogether? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've stayed with us this long, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Together, we can keep shining a light on the stories others want hidden. Together, we can uncover more dark truths.